Jazmine Gouldbourne, Program Manager at STEM Returners, explains how the program came about and the many ways in which it is helping individuals to develop their careers, working with organizations such as Binnies.
Okay, so Binnies launched the STEM Returners program, I think last year, and I guess it would just be good to understand what who came up with the idea, what was the thinking behind creating the program.
So Natalie Desty founded STEM Returners about 6 years ago now. So STEM Returners is all about working with people that are struggling to return to work through standard channels, usually after a career break. But it could be a neurodiverse graduate that might struggle in assessment centres. It it could be a qualified and experienced candidate that might have come from overseas, but could be struggling to secure a UK-based role due to lack of UK experience. It could be a returning parent, or it could be, that mid-level career candidate that has been made redundant or has had to care for elderly parents, but, just can't seem to secure a role through standard channels because of the length of their career break. Never would they anticipate that after a long career, they might struggle, to return to their core skill set. So these are candidates that have applied countless times before, but they're being filtered out. So the STEM Returners program was created to provide these candidates with a structured, supported, and equitable return to work.
Yeah, and in terms of Binny's involvement, what was it in particular that the company decided they wanted to sort of get involved with the initiative or take it on board?
The STEM Returners program is organically a D&I initiative. So lots of companies will utilise the program to include their diversity and throughout their teams. So yeah.
And in terms of how you go about recruiting, I mean, is there a particular process recommended by the program, or is it, shall I say, normal recruiting, but you're just aware of this STEM returning aspect? How does it work in practice, I suppose?
I think something that we never anticipated was the difficulty in identifying these candidates. So these are candidates that are out there, but they're certainly not active. Most of them aren't anyway. So because they faced so much rejection, we don't really use those typical methods of recruitment because they want to be found, but they don't also want to be found, if that makes sense. So they're not necessarily active on job boards, LinkedIn, those kind of platforms. So we had to be really creative with how we identify these candidates. So we do have an existing network of over 13,000 returners across the UK proactively seeking new roles. So as a first point of call, we will always reach out to these candidates when we launch a new programme. Then it's very much a local campaign. So we'll work with various local outlets to attract these candidates. So these might include, local play groups, special interest groups, charities, refugee charities, and our partner organisations such as Women's Engineering Society and AFBA.
Okay, and in terms of the initial intake, it'd just be good to give us if you like, a flavour of the type of people that you did recruit in the program, the issues, some of the issues they might have faced, etc.
Yeah, in terms of the issues, one thing that I have learned in this space is that no two people are the same, no two stories are the same. The roles on the pilot program included civil engineers, asset engineers, and project managers. So each year we run our STEM Returners Index, which is our annual research where we interview over 1,000 returners to identify, what those barriers are in returning to work. One of the most common reasons for taking a career break was to raise a family, or for caring, other family members. I know that was certainly the reason for one of the returning candidates to Binnies. In terms of the difficulties they face, obviously there's bias, unconscious bias most of the time. What we found through the index is that, unfortunately, lack of feedback on applications remains the single biggest barrier when attempting to return to work. So, often we'll work with candidates that might have applied for in excess of 100 jobs. And they're not even being rejected. They're just not receiving any form of feedback, which, I'm sure you can imagine, when submitting another application elsewhere, they don't know where they're going wrong. They're just not receiving any guidance or any feedback at all, which is quite disheartening. And I think that then becomes a vicious cycle, and these candidates go from proactively applying for lots of jobs to, losing hope altogether. And that's hopefully where we come in.
Yeah, and in terms of once you have recruited them, do you take particular, do they become just in inverted commas another member staff, or because of how you've acquired their skills, do you take extra time? Is there an ongoing program just to watch over the STEM returners to check that they are enjoying themselves, and you're making sure that they are as I say, life is good for them once they've joined?
So most of our programs will initially run as a 12-week supported program, and 96% of our candidates are retained permanently at the end of that 12-week process. All of our returners will be provided with ongoing support from our internal careers coach, Amanda. So she engages with those candidates from interview stage. After that, she'll check in with them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to see how they're getting on, and we'll maintain really close communication with our host organisations to see if there's anything that we can do to support. In addition to that, we also have our own mentoring platform as well. So the mentoring platform was created to connect the returners with STEM mentors who offer support, encouragement and guidance. So our returners can remain a part of that platform for as long as they want to. That's not restricted to the 12 weeks. And I guess from our perspective, the long-term goal there is that they eventually become mentors themselves. They've got a true first-hand experience of what these candidates are going through. So that's the longer-term intention. And then our host organisations are also provided with, a bit of a guide of how to run a programme as well, and how they can support the candidates internally. As I say, each story is very individual, and some candidates might need a bit more support than others. I always like to say it's like riding a bike. Nobody loses their skill set. It's just that they might need that additional support for the first few weeks. So whether that's in the form of a mentor through our mentoring scheme and a buddy internally, it really varies from candidate to candidate. But no, the support certainly doesn't stop once they've started.
And in terms of for Binnies, they obviously it was successful, so they're running the second program 2023. Just be interested, where is that program at the moment? What stage? Has people already been recruited, or is it where is it?
We are, so we're delighted to be working with Binnies again. So we are in the initial phases of that project. The whole team at Binnies have been great in supporting the programme. So we have fulfilled the first vacancy, which was a civil engineering vacancy. So she was a really highly qualified and experienced engineer that had taken a career break to raise a family. She's doing really well, and we're just in the recruiting stages now of the next few vacancies.
And is it the sort of thing that, whether at Binnies or elsewhere, is likely to become, do you think companies become a permanent fixture, so they do it every year, or do they, dare I say, only reach for it when they've got particular sort of recruiting issues, or do most of them make a firm commitment, to the whole idea behind it?
Most companies that we've worked with that have run a pilot program have subsequently gone on to run another STEM returners program, which is fantastic. So we're running 3 sort of large programs at the moment with Jacobs, Leonardo and AWE, who are taking in excess of 30 returners over the next 12 months. So, most organisations, one of the biggest barriers when we run, as with anything, is change. And we learn a lot through the pilot program. And the idea of that pilot program is to really, look at the lessons learned, what worked well, what could we change for next time. Essentially, we're asking companies to do something a bit differently. So, change never comes easily. The idea of that pilot program is that we can then implement that as a permanent solution to our host organisations. But yeah, really, really delighted that most companies that do run a pilot program will subsequently go on to run another STEM returners program.
And are you aware, again, whether it's Binnies or other organisations you work with, that one of the benefits, or I suppose actually probably the easiest way of putting it is, what's the feedback? What are the benefits, to the company? Are they acquiring skills and knowledge that maybe they wouldn't find in any other way? Just why it's so good for these organizations?
So returners, generally they will have prior skills and experience, which are all valuable, as we know. But what returners don't necessarily realise is that they acquire skills throughout their career breaks that really can add value, such as resilience as an example. And I think that in some instances, the returners themselves and, potentially hiring managers can underestimate the value of their experiences. Employing returners creates a diverse team, which, we all know is beneficial to any organisation.
And perhaps in finishing, in terms of your initiative, I know there are various other initiatives around equality, diversity, and also STEM, so it's a sort of combination of things. But overall, bearing in mind certainly the water industry, engineering sector, there's lots of experience theoretically disappearing in a few years' time, etc. Do you think that there's, if you like, what you're doing and all the other initiatives are sufficient to plug the gap that's maybe arriving, or do you worry that at some stage STEM subjects, STEM jobs, if you like, I can call them that, there will just be too many vacancies because there's too many companies, fighting for too few people? Just your thought. Are you optimistic or pessimistic, I suppose, is the question. It's
a great question. I think there's always more work to be done when it comes to D&I. Diversity and inclusion is a journey, and each company is at a very different stage in their journey. But I think through taking part in initiatives like STEM returners, companies are able to tap into a brand new talent pool of candidates, and to identify really, really valuable skills that aren't necessarily being utilised. And as a positive, our index did find that for the first time in 3 years, people are finding it easier to return to work than they were 12 months ago, which means we are moving in a positive direction through fantastic initiatives like the STEM Returners programme. So yeah, there's always room for improvement, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, it's been lovely to chat and fascinating talking about the subject. So Jazmine, really appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
No problem at all. Thank you.